There is a specific type of loneliness that only happens when you are lying right next to the person you love. Claire didn't notice the breakdown of her 3-year relationship in a loud argument. She noticed it when the floor was already wet. It started with a hidden journal, a man who stopped reaching for her hand first, and a receipt that changed everything. The journal was hidden the way sacred things are hidden. Not locked away, not dramatic, just quietly slipped beneath the decorative pillow, the one Ryan had never once moved in 3 years. She'd noticed that. The way you notice things you aren't ready to examine. It was a Sunday in October, sandalwood candle burning, pencil moving across cream-colored pages, seating arrangements, not for a client. She smiled, writing Calloway at the top of the page, crossed it out, wrote it smaller, as if that made it less terrifying. Claire Calloway. 11 months, 32 days from their anniversary. Every page a quiet, careful act of hope nobody else knew existed. The door opened at 4:30, earlier than expected. Ryan kissed her cheek, set his bag in its exact usual spot, got water without being offered any, completely comfortable, completely here. She loved him most in these ordinary moments. She'd never told him that. She wasn't sure why. An hour later, couch, television murmuring, his arm around her, her legs across his lap, his hand on her ankle, absent-minded, warm, present. She thought, this is enough. This is genuinely more than enough. This was the thing about Claire that would later both protect her and quietly undo her. She was constitutionally grateful. She had grown up in a house that went silent without warning and learned early to treat ordinary warmth as something rare. She didn't take moments like this for granted. She also didn't examine them closely enough. I looked at the venue in Napa again. Silence, the specific silence of someone deciding, not considering. "Let's revisit when we're closer," Ryan said. She nodded, face unchanged. She was exceptional at folding disappointment inward cleanly, quickly. She'd been practicing her entire life without knowing it was practice. That evening she almost showed him the journal. Actually got up, held it with both hands, 11 months of pressed clippings and circled venues and carefully managed hope. Then she heard him laugh at something on television. She put it back. That night she opened it in the dark, stared at the Napa page, string lights, white flowers, a couple completely certain of each other. He never asked to see it, she thought. Not the venue. The journal. 3 years and she'd never shown him the most important thing she carried. She waited for that to mean something innocent. It didn't. Ryan slept beside her, slow, even completely unbothered. Claire stared at the ceiling and felt, for the first time, the specific loneliness of being loved by someone who has never once asked to see the most important thing you carry. The journal stayed where she put it. He never moved the pillow. He never had. It was a small thing. Thursday evening, walking into the restaurant, his hand finding his coat pocket instead of hers. No argument before it, no coldness after it, just a hand that went somewhere else without noticing. She didn't say anything. She reached for his hand herself. He gave it immediately, warm, easy, fingers closing around hers without hesitation. But she had reached first. She felt that all through dinner. November settled over the apartment like a slow exhale. Claire stopped lighting the sandalwood candle every Sunday. Couldn't explain why. It just felt like too much, too deliberate, too hopeful, too loud against something quietly going gray. Ryan was present. That was the maddening part. He came home, he kissed her, asked about her clients, laughed at her stories, slept beside her every night. But somewhere between October and now, his attention had developed a quality she couldn't name. Like a television left on in another room, the sound was there. Nobody was actually watching. She noticed his phone the way you notice a slow leak, not the moment it starts, but the moment the floor is already wet. Face down on the counter, screen pressed against the marble like something being hidden in plain sight. She had never noticed which way his phone faced before. That was the part that frightened her, not the phone. The fact that she was noticing. She moved it once, absently, reaching past it for her coffee. He picked it up immediately, didn't check it, just relocated it, slipped it into his pocket with the practiced ease of someone who had stopped thinking about the gesture entirely. Claire wrapped both hands around her mug. Said nothing. That Friday she made real dinner, not takeout, not leftovers. The table set, candles lit, the kind of evening that says something without saying it out loud. Ryan stood in the doorway when he came home. Something crossed his face, brief, unreadable, there and gone before she could catch it. "You didn't have to do all this," he said. "I wanted to," she said simply. He smiled, sat down, ate, said it was delicious, asked about her week, refilled her water without being asked. All the right things, every single one. She watched him across the candlelight and felt something she had no clean word for. Not suspicion exactly, not quite fear. More like standing in a room you've lived in for years and suddenly noticing a wall is in the wrong place. Nothing broken, nothing missing. But the architecture is different than you remembered. He fell asleep on the couch an hour later. Claire stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes in complete silence. Water too hot, steam rising soft against her wrists. She didn't turn it down. She scrubbed a clean plate. Realized halfway through it was already clean. Set it down. Stood there with wet hands and the specific stillness of a woman holding a question she is not yet brave enough to finish asking herself. Outside, the November dark pressed against the window. Ryan slept undisturbed on the couch behind her. The journal stayed under the pillow. She hadn't opened it in 2 weeks. She told herself she'd been busy. She found it looking for a pen. His jacket pocket. Her pen was missing, his jacket was right there, and she didn't think twice. 3 years of shared space makes you that comfortable with someone. The folded paper came out with it. A receipt, hotel name at the top. Last Thursday's date. 1 room, dinner for 2 charged to the room. She recognized the restaurant. It was the one he'd told her was a client dinner. She stood in the kitchen, holding it with both hands. Her brain moved fast, purposefully, almost clinically, building explanations the way hands build walls. A colleague. A work dinner. Hotels charge meals to rooms. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. She folded it carefully, put it back exactly as she'd found it, then stood at the counter for a long time, hands flat against the cold marble, breathing like someone who has just heard a sound in a dark house and is deciding whether to turn on the light. When Ryan came downstairs, she was making coffee. Back to him, movements easy, measured. "Morning," he said. "Mornings." He poured juice, stood beside her briefly, his arm touching hers. She didn't move away. She didn't lean in either. He didn't notice the difference. That was the moment, not the receipt, not the hotel name, not the Thursday that was a client dinner that maybe wasn't. This moment. Standing 6 inches from the man she loved, feeling the specific, devastating distance of someone utterly present and completely unreachable. She poured her coffee, smiled when he kissed her cheek, listened to him leave, then stood in the kitchen silence and let her face do whatever it needed to do. Later, she went to the bedroom, reached under the pillow, opened the journal, looked at the Napa page for a long time, then closed it, and sat with the specific grief of a woman who already knows, but isn't ready to stop hoping she's wrong. She kept setting his place at the table. Every evening, automatically. Fork left, knife right, the small domestic choreography of a relationship that looked completely intact from every angle except the one that mattered. She'd found the receipt 6 days ago. She hadn't said a word. The journal came out Wednesday, not to write in, just to hold. Claire sat on the edge of the bed reading it the way you read something belonging to someone you used to know, the Napa page, April circled in soft pencil, the brochure clipping of string lights and white flowers and 2 people completely certain of each other. She had been so certain. She put it on the desk instead of back under the pillow. First honest thing she'd done in weeks. She asked him once, quietly. No accusation, just the raw, unguarded question beneath everything. "Are you happy with us?" Ryan looked up from his phone. Smiled genuine, unhurried. "Yeah, why?" Then went back to scrolling. Didn't set the phone down, didn't reach for her hand, didn't ask what made her ask. Just yeah, why? Claire sat with that answer all night like a stone in her chest. She looked at him across the dinner table and felt something shift permanently behind her sternum. Not breaking, something quieter and more final than breaking. Like a light moving from bright to dim without flickering. He was still warm, still completely, fluently himself. That was the devastating part. Nothing about him had changed. Everything about how she saw him had. The crying came Friday morning without warning. Bathroom, water running, both hands gripping the sink. Silent, the worst kind, the kind your whole body does while your face stays completely still. She turned off the water, went to work, designed the most beautiful wedding centerpiece of her entire career. Came home, cooked dinner, set his place at the table. Fork left, knife right. Like nothing. Like always. Like a woman who knows the truth now, feels it solid and permanent in her chest every single moment, but hasn't yet decided what to do with it. The journal stayed open on the desk. All night. For the first time, she let it. She knew before he finished the first sentence. Not because of the receipt, not because of the phone or the Thursdays or the hand he'd stopped reaching for first. Because of the way he sat down. Ryan never pulled his chair out slowly, he just dropped into seats, casual, completely at home. But that Sunday morning he pulled the chair out carefully, deliberately, like a man who had decided exactly how this would go. She felt the whole relationship end in that single gesture. Before he said a single word. He was composed, prepared, quietly, devastatingly rehearsed. Claire listened without interrupting, hands in her lap, back straight. When he finished, she asked one question. How long? A pause. A while, he said. She nodded. Like the answer confirmed something she'd already quietly known, and spent months refusing to look at directly. She didn't cry in front of him. She wouldn't give the moment that. The apartment was quieter than she expected. Not empty, quieter, like a room exhaling after holding its breath too long. First morning alone, she made 1 cup of coffee instead of 2, didn't realize she was crying until she saw the drop hit the counter. She wiped it, made the coffee, drank it standing at the window in the morning light. Alone and somehow not lost. 3 weeks later, she opened the journal. Not to grieve it. She sat expecting grief and found something rawer, recognition. Every page proof that she was a woman who loved without reservation, hoped without apology, built without fear. Ryan hadn't taken that from her. He'd never even known it existed. It was always entirely hers. She took the journal's color palettes, lighting concepts, venue notes, and built the most ambitious proposal of her career around them. Not his wedding. Her masterpiece. The night of the reception, she stood at the back watching guests move through a room built from the wreckage of her own heart. String lights, white flowers, exactly as she'd once imagined. A colleague leaned close. "How do you make love look so real?" Claire watched the dance floor for a long moment. "I had a very good teacher," she said quietly. She meant the heartbreak, not the man's. She walked out into the cool night air, journal under her arm. Not waiting for anyone. Already home. She planned an entire wedding for a man who was already planning his exit, and turned every page of that journal into the greatest work of her life. Have you ever loved someone completely, only to realize you were building alone the entire time? How did you find your way back to yourself? Is Ryan a villain for letting it drag on, or was Claire wrong for ignoring her intuition for months? Drop your story below. Every single one matters. If Claire's story made you feel something real today, share it with someone who needs it. Welcome to the Breakup Diaries, where every ending is the beginning of something worth watching. New stories every week. Subscribe so you never miss one. And if you've ever been Claire, we built this channel for you.